What's up, guys? It's Kictor. I am back with my beautiful girlfriend Stitch to tell you about a new Danmei that just came out called Peerless. And this is by the same author that did Thousand Autumns.
Yeah. So it actually takes place a few years after the end of Thousand Autumns.
Same universe.
Same universe.
That's cool.
Yep. And something that I feel like I lost sight of a little bit with Thousand Autumns is that it does take place during a real period of history.
Right.
And I happened upon that information in the character name guide in the back of Peerless. So just to kind of reorient ourselves, Peerless is set in the first era of the Sui dynasty. Emperor Wen of Sui established his dynasty in 581 AD after usurping the throne from the previous Zhou dynasty. So we were there for that. The guy that Shen Chao and Yan Wuxi put on the throne is the current emperor in Peerless, and he's doing well. Although Sui was a short-lived dynasty that eventually fell apart in the hands of his son, Emperor Yang, which we're already getting teased a little bit, Emperor Wen is viewed as one of the most influential emperors of ancient China, both for his prosperous rule and for the reunification of the Central Plains after over 200 years of war and turmoil. So that was a neat bit of information to have, because we kind of know where Peerless is going to go, I think, exploring those themes of reunification and war and what it takes to get there in this very short period of time with this current emperor, and maybe potentially where the nation is going to go with the next emperor, which is the current emperor's son. You know, how is he going to take over? What is that going to look like?
They were worried about that.
Yeah, we got that in the extras of A Thousand Autumns, kind of what that next emperor is going to be like, and the drawbacks of having a switchover of power to a very ambitious young man. Very interesting time period, and a very different kind of story as well. There are lots of twists and turns to it. It's very much a mystery novel.
Okay.
Yeah, so I thought that was very interesting. And it starts out with this small kingdom of Khotan sending an envoy to meet the emperor in order to hopefully establish an alliance, because they are just getting attacked by the Gok Turks and they are really hoping for military assistance. So they have to make friends really quickly in order to get that from the emperor. So this guy is a member of the royal family, and he is traveling via carriage to meet one of the emperor's associates. Just a representative from the court is going to meet him in the city. And he's on the way there with his beloved concubine, and he's having a very terrible time of it. It even talks about his horses getting sick and throwing up. And I am not a former horse girl for nothing. I know horses can't throw up. So that threw me for a loop.
Like, it actually says
the
horses threw up.
The horses were throwing up.
I mean, magical spiritual cores also perhaps don't exist.
Why are the horses throwing up? I was like, hey!
This isn't realistic.
This isn't realistic.
Jumps on a sword and flies away.
Yeah, basically. So I thought that was funny. I was like, why did this cursed knowledge come back to me now? Why do I have to know this? Anyways, so he's having a terrible journey, but it gets more terrible for him. And I just feel like the setup of like the first scene being this random guy in a carriage flirting with his concubine is just a set. Like, I feel like that's just a cursed scene. You know the guy and his concubine are going to get killed, right? You just figure that's what's going to happen.
A straight couple?
Right?
In this Danmei?
Absolutely not. So, sure enough, the entire entourage gets murdered.
Nice.
Something from the carriage is stolen. See, the envoy was carrying with him a very cool piece of jade called the Jade of Heaven Lake.
Mutton fat jade?
Perhaps. It is a legendary treasure which can restore youth and cure any illness. And it can also be used to advance your martial arts if you're like a cultivator.
Sick.
Yeah, so a pretty cool piece of jade, and it belonged to the king of Khotan, and he was going to give it to the emperor to be like, please, 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 please be my friend. But it got stolen.
Right. No friendship.
No friendship in sight. That's where our story begins. And you may be wondering, where do our main characters, where do they come into this? It starts with Feng Shao being the guy the envoy was supposed to meet in the city, showing up and finding a crime scene instead, and having to investigate. Now, thankfully, this is well within his job description, because he is the deputy chief of a bureau that is basically in charge of investigating things for the emperor.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty cool.
So he's Sherlock Holmes.
He's Sherlock Holmes.
In Scotland Yard.
Yeah. He's the head of Scotland Yard for
Got it.
ancient China. Oh my gosh. So let's learn about our main characters.
Ooh, okay. Feng Xiao.
Yes.
Which is this guy?
Yeah.
No.
Guy in white.
Got it. God made him the most beautiful man in ancient China because his personality is ass. See, that was crossed out.
I decided to rephrase that.
Peerlessly beautiful and unfortunately knows it. Ah.
I have to tell you, the only time the word peerless is used in this volume is to describe his beauty.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, is that the title? Is the title this guy's just uber hot? I don't know.
That's funny. Clever, but not clever enough to win against Sui Buchui.
Yes, he is quite smart. But he's not playing 3D chess the way Cui Buchui is.
Is Sui Buchui like L?
Yes. Look at you.
I know my detectives.
Yes, it's basically Light and L. And they may or may not be down to kill just as many people. We'll see. I gotta say, morally gray protagonist, if that's your thing, Peerless is for you.
Okay.
Because both of them are honestly down to do whatever it takes to solve a mystery and do a mission.
I can respect that.
Yeah.
No qualms about torturing and poisoning people to make his job easier. So
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Including his love interest. Honestly.
Well,
Spends most of his time doing that to him.
and has a long-suffering assistant named Pei Jingzhe.
His somewhat competent but not super skillful sidekick.
Okay.
He's there the entire time, and I don't talk about him much, but he's a cutie pie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there something about him where you know that he is not a love interest? It's just like, oh, he's the friend. Like, is he described as being ugly or anything?
No, he's not really described at all.
Okay, he's just there.
He's just there.
Got it.
That's just there, derogatory. Also, Feng Xiao is, like, a #1 top-tier martial artist. Like
Oh, cool.
Shen Chao, Yan Wuxi level or thereabouts. He kicks everyone's ass.
Cool.
Which is cool. Yeah. Also, in this picture, he's playing the zither.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of his, like, weapons. He fights with it.
Lan Wangji.
Yes. He's very much a bard-like character.
That's cool.
So Feng Xiao shows up to the crime scene, looking gorgeous, looking very cool. He investigates, and he puts together that not only was a concubine traveling with this party, but that she is not among the bodies there. She is missing. And so that is his first clue to launch the investigation. And so he looks into her identity, and he discovers that she was originally from this city that the envoy was originally headed to, Liu Guang City.
Okay.
And she used to live there with her family, and she was known to be devoutly religious, and she would always go to this one monastery to burn incense. But the monastery that she went to was, like, practically deserted. Wasn't very popular. Not a lot of people went to it, which made it a little bit of a strange choice for someone so devout. But 2 months prior to the murders that just occurred here, a new abbot arrived at this monastery and made it extremely popular.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Suspicious.
Yeah, very suspicious turnaround for this monastery. And so the name of this abbot is none other than Cui Buchui.
Ah, okay.
Who showed up again 2 months ago and is now entrenched in this monastery as the new abbot. This whole time I was wondering how the love interest would show up, and I'm like, what the fuck you mean he's in the monastery?
Right.
Like, what is he doing there?
What's an abbot?
Like a head monk, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. I was like, is he a monk? Is that his whole thing? Is he actually, like, a full-time monk? No.
No. He fucks.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So he goes to investigate the monastery and Cui Buchui.
Okay.
So let's learn about Cui Buchui.
God nerfed his body because his mind is too OP. Oh my god. Okay. So he's like Xavier in the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much. I mean, not in a wheelchair, but probably should be.
Your boy is chronically ill,
He'd be suffering.
insanely smart, and incredible mental fortitude to deal with Feng.
Literally. Yes, not only is he so incredibly smart, like he's able to lay out these very intricate long-term plans with many multiple pieces, and really, like, he has a wealth of information about, like, everybody and anything, and he is able to really, like, play people.
Interesting.
And also, he has this just insane amount of willpower. Like, he's impossible to break mentally. It doesn't matter how much physically he's suffering, mentally he is always able to push through that pain.
Damn.
And hold himself together and do anything he puts his mind to.
Okay.
Which becomes very important throughout even the first volume.
He's the deputy chief of the Zhuiyue Bureau?
Yes. So this is very similar to the bureau that Feng Xiao also is in charge of. But this one is directly under the ownership of the Empress instead of the Emperor. Now, something that's really cool about this current dynasty is that the Emperor and the Empress are kind of the ultimate duo. They are an incredible, powerful tag team. She has a lot of independent power, and they mutually respect each other and value each other. So even though usually an Empress wouldn't hold a lot of political power, just being a woman in society, she's a little bit of an exception. And so she has her own bureau for investigating like the martial arts world.
Okay.
So this way she's not stepping on her husband's toes with his investigative bureau for the secular world, but she's able to control, again, a lot of powerful secret agents to investigate on her behalf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tragic backstory?
It's teased a little bit.
How tragic?
I don't know yet. But it does seem like he had a very rough youth, and I know his dad is dead. I'm assuming the rest of his family probably isn't around. So I think he might have a tragic backstory. I don't think Feng Xiao has a tragic backstory.
Okay. Will not hesitate to tell Feng Xiao to shut the fuck up.
This was the most surprising thing about his character to me. I was expecting a little more of a straightforward tsundere character.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, oh, don't touch me, you bug me so much, but kind of flustered. No. Not only does he hold his own with Feng Xiao, he also is deeply annoyed by him and does not hesitate to let him know. The amount of times he uses the fuck word to yell at Feng Xiao is so funny to me.
As an abbot?
Right?
Oh. Okay. His second in command, Xiao Shan and Zhang Shun Bodhi, care and worry for him deeply.
Yeah, so these are two side characters that pop in and out of the whole volume doing work on his behalf, and I really like them so far. It seems like there's some really neat relationships to explore there, especially with Xiao Xian, because for her she's very deeply attached to Cui Buchui, and it sounds like in the past he saved her life.
Oh, okay.
And to him, he is like a father and a brother and a master and a friend all rolled into one. Like, there's no romantic feelings on her part, but she just adores and worships him and cares for him so deeply and is super reliable as a subordinate and does a lot on his behalf. So I'm really interested in seeing more of her, especially because she is extremely androgynous.
Oh, we love that.
Yeah, there's an interesting scene with her later on that I'll talk about.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just feel like she's a bit gay. Oh, yes. So, Cui Buchui is described as a fox multiple times. Feng Xiao is described as a peacock. And if you notice, like, the little designs over the chapters have a peacock and a fox in the design.
That's cute.
That's very cute. So, Feng Xiao goes to investigate the monastery and Cui Buchui's personal connection to the case, and he happens to interrupt an assassination attempt on Cui Buchui's life, which he is completely defenseless to. Like, Cui Buchui has no martial arts. None. I was so surprised by this. I thought it was, like, a facade.
Yeah.
He was just putting on a defensive... Like, no, your boy has no martial arts.
Interesting.
Which is so odd. Like, I was so surprised that the one character has, like, top-tier martial arts and the other just has none.
It makes a good duo.
It does. Yeah. Feng Xiao saves him, but then he immediately arrests him.
Nice.
And to interrogate him, because he's not cooperating, he does some psychological torture on him.
But his mental fortitude is so very strong.
He does not know this, but yes. So he puts him in a room that is designed to be completely dark and completely silent.
And he's like, finally some peace.
So...
It's like, normally I have to pay for a sensory deprivation tank.
I wish. I would love to say that he gets thrown in and he's like having a good time. But unfortunately, it is actual torture. It is like very quickly, like other like physically strong martial artists in these conditions would like break down in like 3 days or something.
Okay.
And what's interesting is that while Cui Buchui like goes into that situation not being scared, he also doesn't have any reason to be assured that he's going to be okay. It's described that he doesn't know how long he can actually endure this, but he's just simply not fazed by it at all.
He's like, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah. I love that for him. So he's in there for 5 days, which is already insane. And he's only got like a little bit of food. Like it kind of shows.
Keep him alive.
Yeah. And he's falling ill again because these conditions are not good for a normal person, but he's actually just sick all the time. And he's mentally exhausted as well, but his willpower is still at 100%. He's like, I could do this all day. I don't know how long I've been in here. Maybe a day, maybe 5.
Could do this all day. Yeah. It's still the first day, right?
Yeah. It's not breaking him down enough, so Feng Shao even orders a poison to be, like an incense, to be burned in the room, and it's called the incense of helplessness. I know, I was
oh no.
Oh no, the incense of helplessness.
Yeah.
I wonder what that's going to do. But it's essentially like a very strong poison that just gives you very painful withdrawals. So he has that now.
Okay.
So that definitely made
What are they
things
trying to get out of him?
They're just like, we know you're fucking involved in these murders or something.
Yeah, you're suspicious, you abbot.
Yeah.
That's my new favorite word.
And even though Feng Shao might be starting to think that he's not actually involved, he still is very certain that he's hiding something from him, and at this point just wants to find out. So then the incense of helplessness doesn't work either, and that's because Wei Buchui actually encountered a similar poison before in his lifetime.
And he's already like immune to it or whatever.
Not immune to it. It's still fucking him up pretty badly.
But it's not as bad.
Yeah. But mentally, he's like, I've been here before. And he lasted 10 days before.
Oh my god.
So he's like...
Wait, why did he encounter it before? Like, what shit is he doing?
I know!
God.
I know, I need to know. I'm like, what the fuck you mean you've encountered this before? What the hell?
That's so funny.
After those 10 days, he succumbed physically first. His mental stability was still, again, unfazed.
You know what they have to do, I guess? Throw in the aphrodisiac one.
Yeah, I was half expecting to go there. I'm like, what do you mean withdrawals? What kind of withdrawals?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were not sexy withdrawals. So anyways, all of this is just to get into our heads just how insanely powerful his will is.
Yeah.
So after all that, Feng Shao was like, oh, yeah, I guess he might not actually be guilty of anything, but he might be part of that other bureau that the Empress is in charge of. But Cui Buchui is still denying everything, so Feng Shao is left with no answers. But he does realize that Cui Buchui can be a very useful tool for him, so he's like, hey, since you're basically arrested now, I will remove the poison from you, maybe, if you cooperate with me and help me on this case.
If you become my best friend.
Yeah. And Cui Buchui calls him a motherfucker and says, how fucking dare you ask me to work for you when I am starving to death? And, like, how dare you?
He's like, oh, I'm so sorry. Hands him a sandwich. A donkey sandwich.
I mean, he does feed him after that. And so he is put to work by Feng Shao since he was not given the option to refuse. But he is also not actually holding out for any cure for the poison either. In fact, he may have his own reasons for going along with Feng Shao.
Okay.
I think the important thing to know about Cui Buchui is that you cannot make him do anything he does not actually want to do. He will connive and trick himself out of it.
Okay.
At this point, I was very surprised by their relationship. It was quite rockier than I expected. It is far more lighthearted than Thousand Autumns. Like, the tone of this is comedic all the way through.
Really?
Yeah. Just with how they treat each other and other hijinks from different characters throughout. And the general nature between them is much more of an equal power dynamic. So I would say it's definitely lighter than Thousand Autumns.
Okay.
But I was not expecting them to hate each other so strongly and persistently.
I do like it when characters hate each other. I like it.
This is good, yeah. I mean, I definitely don't dislike it either. I think it's hilarious because it's more of a rivals situation because they are secretly like head of opposing secret agencies, and they do respect each other's abilities. They just find each other deeply aggravating.
Right.
So that's different from having like a real misunderstanding or difference in morality or something.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Feng Xiao is right about him being in the Zhou Bureau.
Okay.
But he vastly underestimates his position in that bureau.
Okay.
He thinks he's a little underling. So he's trying to recruit him the entire time. He's like, I know you're in that agency. I will make you like a fourth in command. You'll have so many perks. You'll have the best boss ever. Me. And and yeah, like what do they have that I don't have? And meanwhile, he's talking to the boss. So that's just hilarious.
Oh. Cui Buchui is the boss.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're both bosses of their respective
Oh my god,
agencies.
that's funny.
Right?
Yeah.
This whole time, Cui Buchui is still in secret communication with his 2 second commands, one of which is a very taciturn monk-like man who isn't actually a monk, but looks like one, and a very beautiful but icy woman. We'll hear more about them later, particularly the beautiful woman.
Okay.
Okay, so next step of their investigation. In the city, there is a very fancy auction that is happening. The Danmei Pavilion is auctioning off all sorts of treasures and spiritual weapons.
Maybe even a beautiful butterfly feast.
Or a jade, a missing stolen jade.
Oh, yeah, that.
Wrong Danmei novel. Yeah, it's basically totally the same setup as in Arha, which makes it really easy to understand.
Auctions were easy for me to understand even before Arha, just to clarify.
I just felt like, okay. You know what? I don't even need to defend myself. I also understand eBay, okay? Feng Xiao has reason to suspect that the missing stolen jade is going to pop up in this auction to be sold and smuggled out of the city that way.
It's like your phone gets stolen at school and then you see it on Facebook Marketplace the next day.
Exactly. So he's like, this is where we're going to get our next lead. So he drags Cui Buchui there on the final day of the auction when like the coolest stuff is going to be auctioned off. And he's essentially using him as his own personal encyclopedia / Google search engine.
And what's that?
What's that? Who's that? What about those guys? Who are they? And he knows all the answers. So he's a very useful person.
Nice.
But there is this, forget the plot stuff. More importantly, there is this scene where Feng Xiao runs into an old acquaintance by the name of Lin Yong, who is a notable homosexual.
Oh.
Yes. And the young master of a wealthy merchant family. So he's able to kind of be a homosexual in peace. And so Lin Yong has been kind of pursuing Feng Xiao because he's hot.
Fair.
And so when they run into him, Feng Xiao introduces Cui Buchui as his lover to kind of get him to back off a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Is that not crazy?
I do love that as a setup. I do.
Right?
Yeah.
A little bit of fake dating against your will. And this is actually the second time he's done this, because the first time they were in a restaurant together and he suddenly starts annoying Cui Buchui by like trying to like hand feed him food and calling him cutesy nicknames and stuff just to piss him off.
It's just gay to piss you off.
Is it gay to piss a man off so much?
Ask Chung Gung.
I feel like I need to get across Feng Xiao's personality a little bit more too, because
Okay.
he is so self-absorbed. It's so funny. He has so much self-confidence knowing how beautiful he is, and he's so obnoxious about it. I just gotta read this like little quote. Feng Xiao clapped his hands in praise. Shui is really amazing. Out of all the masses here, only you possess any flicker of brilliance. I'll give you 3 out of 10. Cui Buchui pressed his lips together, refusing to respond. But Feng Xiao wouldn't be denied. He said, "Why don't you ask me where the remaining 7 points are?"
Oh my god.
Even without asking, I already know, said Cui Buchui icily. Feng Xiao smiled. It seems that you think the same. As they say, heroes are of one mind. 7/10 of the world's brilliance already belongs to me. Thus, the remaining 3/10 go to you.
Stop. Oh my god. He's so annoying.
He is so annoying. They're kind of like if beef leaf were scrambled and
I felt
reversed
that.
and turned inside out.
I was getting like a Shi Qingxuan
But
vibe
evil.
if she was mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Xu Qingchuan, but if she were mean. Yes! And Ming Yi if he weren't harboring terrible, deep, dark, evil secrets.
I can fuck with that.
Yeah! Okay.
That art is really cute.
Isn't it? It's so cute. Okay.
Is he pulling his hair?
Yes. I think so. I'm sure he deserves it.
Ah!
Yes. Speaking of getting back at Feng Xiao. So, sure enough, the jade does appear. Or at least something that could be the jade. They haven't seen it themselves in person, so they can only assume that this is the jade.
Okay.
And it was delivered to the auction house a day prior, which checks out. And its name and origin are not introduced and supposedly not known due to its lack of appraisal. So usually the auction house items are like verified by experts and have provenance and all of these things. So it's like a very trustworthy thing to get. But this one suspiciously lacks all of those things because it showed up on such short notice. And so it gives the jade a kind of a secret identity, right? Like, even though it's stolen, now that it just shows up at this auction house that it's trustworthy but doesn't have any information about it, someone could buy it, leave with it, or so on.
Yeah.
And wouldn't be suspected. But Feng Xiao places a very
They're
high...
laundering it.
Yeah.
They're laundering the jade.
Exactly. So, Feng Xiao places a very high bid on the jade, so he can get it.
Nice.
And it's such a high bid, everyone in the room turns to look at him. And Sui Butui takes this as his moment to finally get back at Feng Xiao.
Ooh.
Can you guess what he does?
Does he kiss him?
Worse. He accuses him of sexual harassment.
Oh.
Of not only pursuing him, chasing him around, but also sleeping with his sister, with Sui Butui's imaginary sister, who does not exist. He's like, you shameless cat. First you sleep with my sister, then you won't leave me alone. Oh, how could you?
Oh my god.
Yep.
Wow.
And so, this is embarrassing for sure. But what he doesn't count on is that Feng Xiao has the thickest face possible.
Oh.
So he doubles down on it. He's like,
Yeah, I fucked your sister and I'm gonna fuck you too.
yes, literally. Yeah, so that's on playing gay chicken, right? He's like, yeah, I slept with your sister and you're hot too, so why not have both? I've already trained her. I can train you next.
What?
And so Sui Butui has to double down.
Oh my god.
And be like,
this is so funny.
Because he hasn't denied it, he's like, okay, next move. He's like, my sister told me you like being whipped in bed. And that's just disgusting. I don't want anything to do with you.
Oh my god. Oh my god. What does he say that? He's like, you bet I do.
At that point, he's like, okay, can everyone just get on with the auction, please?
Oh my god. I like that he got the upper hand there.
Exactly. Sui Butui always gets the upper hand.
Nice.
Yeah, so he does win the jade, and they do leave the auction with the jade at the cost of some reputation.
Wow.
Yeah. They have no way to authenticate the jade themselves, but they do have a new list of suspects because they were able to take note of who reacted strangely to them getting the jade.
Right.
Right? Who's paying extra close attention. And they didn't have to do much personally investigating that afterwards because 5 of those suspects show up at their house afterwards for the jade.
Nice.
So let's get into these 5 suspects.
Bing Shan, a disciple of the He Huan sect, perhaps even the next sect master.
So you remember Bai Rong?
Yeah.
This is her favorite disciple.
Oh, nice.
She's still a girl bossing away. And so she is one of the people who shows up to see if the jade is real.
Cool.
And she is, as you would expect, like flirty, trying to play up Feng Xiao, who is like matching her energy, but not having any of it.
Is he gay? Is he a virgin?
I don't know. He seems, okay. He seems, I don't actually know, but it does seem that, for one thing, he's not afraid of coming across as gay at all. It doesn't imply that he's had direct experience with women, but it does seem like he would have, just by being so beautiful. Okay. So he's kind of giving bi energy.
Right.
But I don't actually know what his history is for sure.
Okay.
it might be kind of a case of like, I'm literally so beautiful, like who could possibly deserve me?
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
He has cross-dressed as a woman before.
Well, he's checking off everything on the list.
I think it was implied.
Okay.
To seduce a man.
Okay.
For fun. Because the man's lover asked him to. This is an aside. We'll talk about this now, though. This is just a story he tells Sui Butri at a random time. And basically he's like, yeah, I ran into this woman and she had this husband. And this woman saw me, saw that I was so gorgeous. She's like, please do me this favor and see if my husband will remain faithful to me. And so he did. He did. It doesn't say that he dressed as a woman, but...
It doesn't say that he fucked his husband, but...
I think he did dress as a woman.
Okay.
I think.
That
would make
so
sense.
funny.
And he did go and seduce her husband, or her husband was seduced just naturally, and then the woman was really sad about it.
Wow.
And he tells the story to Sui Butri, like, much later in the book, and he's like, and what is the moral of the story? I'm so hot that I can sway anybody.
Oh my god.
Even you.
Boo sway. Sway, boo sway. I'm gonna sway you.
Yeah. He's like, and I bet I've even swayed your heart.
It's in your name.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what Sui Butri says to that?
What?
He's like, you're hot, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna do anything about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, like he totally is fine acknowledging to his face that he is like extremely gorgeous and attractive.
Yeah.
But he's also like, that doesn't mean I'm gonna actually like you. Just love your personality.
That's the best kind of insult to give someone like that.
Right. So we'll go into more of that later. But anyways, then next guy.
Yu Shui, a monk with close ties to both the Gok Turks and Yang Guang, the emperor's ambitious second son.
If you remember the Thousand Autumn Extras, we met him briefly with Shen Chao and Yan Wuxi. And he was implied to maybe be gay with the emperor's son.
Oh,
but
yeah.
also that he's definitely a bad guy.
Okay.
And this is revealed when he kidnaps Sui Butri, assuming naturally that he is Feng Shao's lover.
Uh-huh. Fo R, the Gok Turks' top martial artist.
He shows up and he doesn't care about the jade at all. He just wants to kill Feng Shao for some godforsaken reason.
Okay. And Go Nyang, martial artist from Go Guero, a Korean kingdom.
I am missing a
Go-Guero.
Y in that.
Go-Guero.
It's R-Y-E-O. I messed up. Anyways. Yes, so I had to look that up, but Go-Guero is the name of one of 3 kingdoms that made up Korea at the time. So that's really interesting. Like, we've got like a very like wide cast of characters from all over the place.
First the Pope, now Korea.
Yeah. And then there's a secret 5th figure who doesn't fight anybody but just watches.
Okay.
And so that is the most suspicious because the jade being sold at the auction was likely to lure out somebody. And so we're gonna go into more of the mystery here. But they bring home the jade. 5 powerful martial artists show up from the auction. Feng Shao tosses the jade at them and lets them fight over it. And the jade breaks as soon as it's touched, which shocks everyone and makes them think that it's a fake. So they think that Feng Shao still has the real one, so then they attack him. Now, Foer has no interest in the jade at all. He attacks Feng Shao, who starts fighting with him. And Yushu kidnaps Sui Butri, thinking that he is Feng Shao's lover and thus is a good hostage.
Oh my god.
But and at one point during the fight, though, Feng Shao uses Sui Butri as a human shield to protect his hairstyle.
Oh my god! I just got this perm! I can't get it wet!
Yes! Which is just so rude.
Oh my god.
Oh, but during his fight with Foer, he fights with the Zither, which is just so cool.
Cool.
Yes. So anyways, Sui Butri gets kidnapped, and Feng Shao catches up to them and saves him. But at that point, everyone has scattered and all of their suspects have disappeared. But they have had the 5th figure followed back to a manor in the city that is owned by the Liu family. So we'll go back to that at a later point. Yes. So the interaction between Cui Butri and Yu Xiu is interesting because he has like a very creepy personality. He seems very friendly and nice, but he just has a very conceited and cruel personality underneath that. Like, you can tell he's deeply evil.
Okay.
Yes.
Deeply evil.
Yeah.
Got it, yeah.
So, after Feng Xiao rescues him, Cui Butri says that he's hungry. So, they go try to get something to eat, but it's the middle of the night, so nothing's open, so they break into a restaurant.
Oh my god,
and
nice.
Feng Xiao's assistant makes noodles for them, but he's never cooked before, so the noodles turn out really badly.
Oh my god.
And at this point, Cui Butri is so exhausted from being dragged around the whole city everywhere at night, and he refuses to go anywhere else. And Feng Xiao's like, no, we just had this huge crazy fight happen. We need to pursue the case. And so Cui Butri throws up on him out of spite.
Oh! Oh my god.
He's like, if you make me go anywhere, I will throw up on you. And he's like, oh, come on. Like, I'd like to see you try. And then he does. Which, there's like...
That's disgusting.
Right?
What's with the throw up in this story?
Right?
First the horses, making up horse throw up just to include it in the story, and now this?
It's a lot of puke for one Danmei novel. There's a few instances where Feng Xiao is not squeamish, but he definitely, and I don't know if he's like a germaphobe or if he just likes to, like, his appearance to be neat, but he doesn't like getting dirty. He doesn't like getting blood on him. He doesn't like any of that. So this was really, truly a targeted attack.
Right.
Throwing up on him was truly the best thing Cui Butri could have done.
Nice.
And he's so pleased with himself afterwards. Like, he absolutely did it on purpose, and he is just having a great time now.
Oh my gosh.
So they have to go home so that he can change. And in the middle of all of this, they have ascertained that the murderer slash thief was actually not one person, but two persons. And that there was likely a decoy jade with the envoy. And so they split them between them. And so one accomplice has the real jade, one has the fake jade, and they might not themselves know who has which.
Right.
And so now they think that the jade that showed up at the auction was one of the jades that perhaps like one of them suspected, like, oh, I got the fake one, but maybe I can lure out my accomplice because they might also be thinking they have the fake one.
Right.
And I can steal their jade. So there's some sort of falling out between the thieves.
Okay.
They are still trying to track down one or both of them from that. On the one hand, they have the mysterious person who was traced back to the Liu Manor. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing they have to investigate. And there is another lead that has also been kind of percolating in the background of all this and goes all the way back to the carriage that the envoy was in. And it's the scent of the concubine's perfume, which remained.
Okay.
And it was a very rare perfume. It was called Cold Plum Blossom Perfume.
Okay.
And so they have basically been tracing like the origin of this perfume, who has it, who could make it. And this was primarily Cui Butri's subordinates investigating that. And it took them into a brothel where Chao Xian disguised herself as a man to seduce a maid.
Oh.
For information.
Lots of cross-dressing seduction in this.
Yes. I love that. And so she's described as coldly beautiful as a woman, but even more attractive as a man.
Just like us.
Right? And what's interesting is when her colleague asks her about her gender, she answers with something kind of interesting, not necessarily very straightforward. I don't know, like there's something queer going on about her. For the first time, Yanshen Bodhi's gaze lingered on her face. Confusion surfaced on his features. You. Which are you, a man or a woman? You've been practicing Buddhism for how long? Said Chao Xian coolly. Don't you know all things are ephemeral and all appearances but empty vanity?
She said androgyny, bitch.
She said
non-binary,
She
bitch.
said the gender be fluiding. The gender be flowing like water.
She said, is the gender in the building with us?
Is there any gender in the Tao, you idiot?
That's fucking funny. Put that on a shirt. My gender is the Tao.
So, it sounds like she just does not give a shit.
I love that.
I love that too. I hope we get more of that.
It's just fucking Haruhi.
Literally! We got the Oran High School Host Club up in here. They trace the perfume back to this perfume maker named Miao, who's in the city, and they follow her back to the house she's staying in, and she attacks them and escapes.
Nice.
So they're like, okay, that's suspicious.
Perfume in the eyes.
She has some martial arts. In fact, her martial arts are a little bit weird. It's like she shouldn't be that strong, but she is stronger than she should be. So
is she using the bone shrinking juice that Yan Wuxi used?
she might be using the jade she stole.
Oh, yep. That's so funny.
So, using their secret communication methods, they relay this information to Cui Buchui, who then puts together that Miao is also from Goguryeo and likely has the real jade.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got mysterious person, fake jade, Miao, real jade.
Yep.
Okay, moving on.
What's that audio? It's like, oh shit, it's in Korean.
That was basically them, because she shows up, she says some shit they don't understand, and then they're like, what the hell? And then they just kind of like repeat it to Cui Buchui, who's like, who fucking knows Korean. Okay, so meanwhile, Feng Xiao has been tricked into believing that his long-suffering assistant has been kidnapped. Surprisingly, he has no second thoughts about actually going to rescue him, which gives Cui Buchui the ick. He's like, really? This doesn't sound like you at all. Just let him die.
Oh my god.
He's literally like, they gave you a ransom, right back to them. Kill him if you want.
Yeah, that's so funny. Oh my god.
Which is so funny. I truly thought the roles would be reversed on that.
Yeah. No, he's like, oh,
He truly
gross.
does not give a shit.
That's funny.
Yes, so unfortunately, Feng Xiao does not listen to him and goes to rescue his little sidekick and drags along the very unwilling Cui Buchui. And they find two of the martial artists who they encountered before, Go Nyang and Fo Er. They're there to kick Feng Xiao's ass. And there's some flirting. Not from them, but like... Okay, so they show up, and Fo Er says, "You were distracted during our fight tonight. I seek a rematch." And Cui Buchui, who is not at all happy to be there, has some opinions on that. This is the first time I've heard someone describe an ambush in such a novel and refined way. You're not from the Central Plain, so perhaps you don't know these more apt words. Brash, brazen, underhanded, unscrupulous, debased, shameless, treacherous, and conniving. Does that about cover it? His tone was cool, yet he listed them all in a single breath, growing increasingly sarcastic. Judging from the way Fora and Go Nyang's faces flashed alternately green and white, they certainly understood at least some of it. Never have I found you as adorable and amiable as I do now, Cui Cui, chirped Feng Xiao happily.
Oh my god. He likes it when he's like kind of mean.
Yeah, I can only imagine at some point they are going to be the most incredible power couple where he just like sicks Cui Buchui on people and just watches them demolish.
They're little mean girls together.
Yeah, they're just so catty. He's like, I will just gladly watch my boyfriend destroy everyone with his words. Feng Xiao starts fighting. Even though he's fighting 1 against 2, he's holding his own pretty well. But at the same time, Cui Buchui is watching from the sidelines, just trying not to get caught up in things. And he gets attacked by 2 assassins. Now, you may be wondering, what's with all the assassins in this book? Well, there is a sect of assassins called the 13th Floor of Yunhai. And their whole job is being killers for hire. And there's definitely some secrets and intrigue involving them and their involvement in the plot, and we don't get any answers this volume, but Cui Buchui does know a little bit about them, and so I think we're gonna get more information in the second volume.
Okay.
For now, they just keep showing up and fucking everyone over. So they attack him. Feng Xiao manages to reach him in time because Cui Buchui thinks he's going to die for real, and now he's fighting 4 people at once. And he's not doing too hot anymore. He's already injured in the shoulder and the abdomen, and he's starting to wear down. And then the book makes sure to mention that they are right by a cliff. Now, I read Thousand Autumns, so if there's a cliff, I'm going to assume someone's going to fall off it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Feng Xiao gets kicked off the cliff.
Every Danmei has a cliff kick.
It's a very useful storytelling tool.
Damn.
So after he falls off the cliff, the assassins dive down to make sure they finish the job, and the others leave. And Cui Buchui has a moment where he's a little disappointed that he died. He's like, it's kind of a loss, kind of a shame. Yeah. But honestly, this makes my life a lot easier. Right? Like, especially knocking down that rival agency.
Yeah.
Could always use that. Unfortunately, he then hears a voice telling him to pull him up.
Pull me up. Yes. I love how we just had a moment of like, that's just sad, but okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm okay with that.
And then,
Damn it!
that's funny.
So Feng Xiao grabs his hand. Sure, he wasn't that eager to help him up, but Feng Xiao grabs his hand and promises to give him his freedom back once they escape. Now, Cui Buchui, of course, knows that if he wanted to be free, then he would have had no problem freeing himself, so this promise is useless to him.
Right.
So he makes Feng Xiao promise to give him something else instead. What do you think Cui Buchui requests in this moment?
Like, asks him to, like, something about their positions, like step down your position, like make me your boss.
Okay, that's a good answer. Kind of along those lines. He tells Feng Xiao, "Call me daddy 3 times and I'll pull you up."
I wouldn't expect that from Cui Buchui. He matched his freak.
Right?
Oh my god.
Now,
What the fuck? Not even Gaga. Daddy?
yeah. So
Wow.
Feng Xiao does it, and it immediately gives Cui Buchui the big ick. Like he does it, and like immediately Cui Buchui regrets it, and he like fucking lets go on accident. But that's how grossed out he was.
Oh my god.
Well, and Feng Xiao actually falls, dragging him with him.
Oh my god.
So they end up like halfway down the cliff. They're like hiding in this little crevice from like there's a fucking blizzard and sandstorm going on at the same time. And there's assassins looking for them. And they're in this like little cramped cave together. And freaking Cui Buchui is sick, his fucking poison's acting up. And Feng Xiao's wounded and also not doing good. Both of them are very weak and vulnerable in the situation. And then they are discovered by the assassins. And then bats explode out of the cave. Like they're in
Like the opening of Scooby-Doo.
Yes! Which fucking knocks one of the assassins off the cliffs and kills him.
Oh my
And then
God.
Feng Xiao kills the other assassin.
Nice.
So they're back to square one there. And then Feng Xiao's covered in bat poop.
Oh.
Yeah, he cannot catch a break. And they can't make it up the cliff at this point because they're just both too weak, so they have to hang tight. Cui Buchui could probably make it up the cliff, but Feng Xiao doesn't let him leave because he knows he won't come back for him. So he's like, "You're stuck with me." And at this point, they finally start to cooperate a little bit more. Cui Buchui finally suggests, like, "Hey, we could work together. I'll even give you a lead and tell you the truth. I do actually work for the Zhou Bureau. I read second command's name off of hand. I'm the second in command.
Mm-hmm.
My boss is a boss. That is not me." And he admits why he came to the city 2 months ago. And that's because he was working on a secret mission. So he is working on a secret mission because the Gokturks are planning to invade the Central Plains again. We learned about this in the 1000 Autumn Extras, but basically, to get us all caught up, in the previous dynasty, there was a princess who was married off to the leader of the Gokturks, who is named Ishbara Kagan. And since the new emperor usurped the previous emperor, she hates the current emperor because he killed her family and took the throne. So ever since then, she's been encouraging her husband to go to war.
Okay.
So the fighting has been going on and off for the last 2 years, and it's only ramping up. And the worst part is the Sui dynasty can't go all in on fighting the Gokturks because they are surrounded by other nations who might also want to attack them. So they have to kind of take a multi-pronged approach to fighting the Gokturks. And so what they're doing is they're attempting to stabilize their relationships with potential allies, which kind of brings us to where the novel started with meeting an envoy from a potential ally.
Mm-hmm.
And they're also trying to divide the Gokturk tribes from within using their existing conflicts. They're not all united, and so they can kind of amplify those internal divisions.
Yeah.
And they want to persuade tribes to ally with them instead. And so, Cui Buchui was in the city to secretly meet with an envoy from another Gokturk tribe. Now, the envoy he was supposed to meet didn't arrive, they died suspiciously on the way there. And although he did investigate, it didn't turn up with anything. So the Gokturks sent a new envoy to meet him, and that person is supposed to arrive any day now.
Okay.
So he's been bunkered down in the city for quite some time for that purpose. And he tells Feng Xiao all of that. And the appearance of Foer, the Gokturk martial arts, actually had nothing to do with Feng Xiao's mission at all, or the Jade. He mistakenly thought that Feng Xiao was the person that the Gokturk envoy was supposed to meet.
Okay.
And so he was sent to, like, interfere with that and make sure that one or the other died, right? To just prevent any alliance being made.
Mm-hmm.
So Cui Butri gives Feng Xiao the lead on Miao having the Jade and how she's even been using it to improve her martial arts. And in exchange, he is saying, you keep being my decoy, and since you have martial arts, you protect me from anybody who shows up trying to kill us.
Yeah.
So not a bad deal. To bring us up to speed on the mystery element, Miao has the real Jade, and the fake Jade that showed up on the auction was from her accomplice, who we don't know who that person is yet, trying to lure her out so he could get the real Jade. So, meanwhile, both of our protagonists are dying, and are freezing cold in the snow, and Feng Xiao suggests huddling for warmth. And Cui Butri replies, get the fuck over here then. And they snuggle.
Must have been really cold then.
It truly it was.
Oh, they snuggle though. Nice.
I just love get the fuck over here. Like, who else has that kind of attitude?
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Who's the big spoon?
Feng Xiao's the big spoon.
Is he the top?
I can't imagine him being anything, but
Okay.
he's so obnoxious. There's no way he would bond. Unless... No. So that's when Feng Xiao tells him the story that I mentioned earlier about how he cross-dressed and seduced a man.
Perfect time when they're cuddling.
Yeah. Yes. And he's doing this not just to be annoying, but because Cui Butri is slipping in and out of consciousness, and he's trying to keep him awake so that he doesn't die. So that's nice.
Yeah.
And Cui Butri just replies, please shut your fucking mouth. Like, he's so over it.
Yeah.
It's a really flirty scene because Cui Butri has, like, no problem admitting to himself internally and even to Feng Xiao's face that he is so handsome and so beautiful.
Right.
So there's definitely a hidden element of attraction there. He's just would never ever say so. Genuinely. So Cui Butri says, with your looks, if you disguised yourself as a woman, no one would be the wiser. Nations would topple before your beauty. Only a scant few wouldn't be swayed. That noble son was a man like any other. How could his heart not falter at the face of such provocation? That woman wished to test the human heart and ended up dropping a stone on her own foot. What about you? Have you been swayed? Feng Xiao lowered his head, his breath fanning over Cui Butri's cheek.
Ooh.
At any other time, Cui Butri would have shoved Feng Xiao's face away or moved out of his reach, but he was completely drained. He couldn't even turn his face aside, let alone lift an arm to push him off. Just because someone's heart is swayed doesn't mean they've fallen in love, he whispered. Feng Er, your face could sway anyone, but not every heart will become your plaything.
Ooh. It's like, yeah, you're hot, but the personality could use some work.
Yeah! So it was just like, that was oddly straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, he flat out admitted, yeah, you give me a little jokey dokey, but that doesn't mean I'm actually going to be weak to you.
Nice.
Right? Yes. So he talks all night. This man is a yapper. So in the morning, he starts singing silly little songs to Cui Butri. Not tired at all of being annoying. And he tells Cui Butri, hey, you're probably thirsty. You haven't had water in like a long time and you're dying. So I would be happy to use my chi to melt some snow for you to drink if you call me daddy 3 times.
Okay.
Yes.
We're gonna microwave the snow with my chi.
Yes.
Okay.
Cui Butri doesn't hesitate, just gets it over with.
He says daddy, daddy, daddy.
Yeah. And then says, my dad is dead.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Right?
Oh my god.
It's so funny. And at this point, Feng Xiao finally realizes that, okay, this guy has to be the chief of that bureau.
Yeah.
He's not an underling.
Yeah.
He can only be the best of the
Oh my
best. He's so
God.
capable. He could truly be no one else. And also, wouldn't it be super convenient for me if I just killed him right now? But instead of killing him, he does something else. At this point, it's the morning. It's the next day. And their subordinates have finally tracked them down to save them. And they find Feng Xiao and Sui Butri in this situation where Feng Xiao has essentially written in permanent marker on Sui Butri's face the following words. I, Sui Butri, owe Feng Xiao a life debt. When I see him in the future, I must call him daddy. Let this be my evidence. Should I refuse, may I be struck by lightning and perish of thirst. Should I flee from my fate, may I break my legs first.
I can't believe the daddy thing has become a thing. Like, it's their thing now.
Unfortunately.
Oh my God.
They're just mean to each other constantly. It's so funny. You know, fast forward a few days of bed rest for Sui Butri. He is back to work, and this time he is voluntarily helping Feng Xiao in exchange for sharing credit of solving the Jade case. And he also asked Feng Xiao to give him Foer's head.
Nice.
Yes. So, Feng Xiao is busy following Miao's trail, and that leaves Sui Butri to investigate the Lu Manor, where they last lost track of the mysterious figure from before, who they suspect to be Miao's accomplice. And something suspicious has just happened at the Lu Manor. Their daughter has drowned to death. She's dead. So the entire house is on lockdown, and they're really mad about it. But Sui Butri waltzes in there to study the corpse and talk to all of the relatives, including her parents, her servants, and her fiance, Su Xing. Okay, you know, like when we saw like the picture in the book where he's like investigating the woman's body?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to stick his fingers down her throat.
Ew.
It's gross. But that's how he discovers that she did not drown to death.
Just detective shit.
Yeah. Like he's like, there's not water in her throat. Like she did not drown to death. So it was clearly a murder. And so as it turns out, by interrogating everyone present, he's able to quickly piece together that Su Xing, her fiance, and her servant hid her murder together. And it was Su Xing who murdered her. As it turns out, Su Xing is not only an accomplished martial artist, but he is the one who killed the envoy and everyone with him and stole the jade. And he was the one who brought the fake jade to try to lure Miao out, who was his accomplice, and is therefore the one who worked together with her in the first place, because she originally was the envoy's concubine, right? And the reason why he killed the Lu daughter, his fiance, was because she accidentally happened to find a book of codes in his study, which would have revealed his secret identity as a Gogoroan spy. Su Xing is not the real Su Xing. The original Su Xing was her cousin.
Okay.
Like, she was engaged to her cousin. There was reasons for it, but yeah. He was originally from Goguryeo, and he took Su Xing's identity during a plague that killed him and his whole family. And then after that, he showed up on their doorstep being like, I'm your long-lost relative, take me in, and has been living under that false identity ever since. So he is essentially like a sleeper agent.
Yeah.
From that kingdom. And the same goes for Miao. She was originally from the same kingdom, and she came over to the Central Plains and was adopted into a family, and then the envoy from Khotan met her in that city, fell in love with her, which was, very intentional on her part, and she became his concubine to go back to that country. And that was part of an even longer plot in which she could have become even more powerful because he could have been even next in line for the throne.
Right.
So it truly was like a big curtain being yanked back on just the espionage of another nation and just how deeply entrenched it was even in their own country. And so there's clearly like a huge scale to the intrigue that Sui Butri and Feng Xiao are going to be investigating in following volumes. And this is just one example of it. So Su Xing is caught, his backstory is revealed, and he says that he will give information that will help them catch Miao and get the real Jade if they will drop the murder charges on him, which they agree to. And he tries to escape after that, but Feng Xiao catches him, so he does end up being captured. It's not actually clear whether they let him go free or if they do arrest him, but he gave them locations where Miao might be, and so Feng Xiao is able to intercept her shortly afterwards and retrieve the Jade and arrest her as well.
Okay.
Now, Feng Xiao wants something from Sui Butri, and that is he wants half the credit for negotiating with the Gokturk envoy that is supposed to come. And Sui Butri absolutely refuses up front. But Feng Xiao has timed his request with an ambush from Foer's disciple, in which Foer's disciple tries to kill Sui Butri.
Okay.
And so Sui Butri is fighting for his life. Like, he has no defenses whatsoever. He's about to be killed. And Feng Xiao's just like, wow, I would sure love to help you if you could just give me what you want. Like, he's ready to let him die. So, of course, Sui Butri is like, okay, fine, half the credit. Save me. And he does. So they take Foer's disciple hostage, and they are going to use him as bait to lure Foer in.
Okay.
We wrapped up the Jade mystery, but we still have this one last plot point to cover, and that is the arrival of the envoy. The second one, not the first one from Catan, but the one from the Gokturks. And she is a very interesting character as well. She is actually the concubine of the tribe's leader, and her name is Jin Lian. And she has come to negotiate an alliance with the Sui dynasty. But those negotiations with Sui Butri quickly fall apart because she refuses to have her tribe be considered a vassal kingdom. She's like, no, we're not going to be under your command. We're not going to give you tribute every year. We're not that desperate. Thank you very much. This should be like mutually beneficial. We're not just gonna like throw away our freedom for you. But Sui Butri essentially pressures her with her own position. She's like, if you fail on this mission, you're gonna lose power and status at home. Honestly, it's going to be way more worthwhile for you and your tribe to ally with us than it is for you. I could take it or leave it. So he's playing this kind of game of negotiation, really putting pressure on her. And then, as if she weren't pressured enough, Foer shows up to ruin the negotiations. And by ruin, I mean murder to prevent the negotiations. And he attacks her. And Sui Butri reveals that he's pretty much the same as Feng Xiao in this instance. He just puts his hand up and is like, oh, I sure wish I could save your life right now, but there's really no point if you're not going to like negotiate with me. And so to save her life, she's like, fine, we could talk. Like, I've got like a letter right here. We'll sign off on it. You can come back with me to talk to the leader yourself and finalize the details. Because she's thinking, even if she manages to survive Foer now, she still has a long journey back by herself to her kingdom, where she could very easily be assassinated.
Right.
So, the negotiations work out, but not without a little bit more trial, because Foer and Feng Xiao are fighting this entire time, destroying everything, and Foer jumps up onto the roof and makes one last attempt to ruin the negotiations because he can't defeat Feng Xiao just yet, and he brings the entire roof down on everybody.
Sweet.
Including Sui Butri.
Not so sweet.
Not so sweet for him. And so Feng Xiao lets Foer escape because he rushes back to save Sui Butri, but he already has his subordinates with him and they protect him with their bodies because they are the best. And so he's fine. Foer escapes. He took his disciple with him. There will definitely be reoccurring characters. And Jin Lian brushes off her dust and her injuries and still agrees to the alliance. And Sui Butri signs both him and Feng Xiao up for another mission. He says, great, we'll both go with you back to your kingdom.
Oh my gosh.
To secure this alliance and all of the details along with it. There's this really funny bit where the next chapter opens up after all of the tumult dies down. The next chapter opens up with this beautiful, serene image. The moon and stars were above, wine and tea below. Feng Shao and Cui Butui sat facing each other. Outside the pavilion a gentle breeze blew, and new grass sprouts peeked from the cold ground. If one ignored that the house had collapsed and Fo Er had taken his disciple and fled, it was a beautiful night.
That's hilarious.
Right? I feel like that captures the whole tone of the book.
Yeah.
Like, just shit is happening, and that is the comedy. And that's pretty much where the plot wraps up. The case with the jade has been solved, although it did reveal some deeper problems. And Su Xing and Miao Yu have been captured. Another thing with them is that it's revealed that they work for a man named Go Un, who is also the master of the Korean martial artist Go Nyung, who appeared earlier. And Go Un is the Goguro King's brother.
Okay.
And he founded his own martial arts sect that is basically the same as the bureaus that our protagonists work for. So it just shows that there is like this whole ring of spies at work, and just how like grand scale the situation is. So not only do you have like these multiple nations and their spies at work, but you have like the long-term stability of the nation, and the fate of this war is at stake, and our protagonists are at the center of investigating all of that. The next step for our protagonists is that they will accompany Jin Lian back to her homeland to meet with the tribe's leader, her husband, to fully establish the terms of the alliance. And so they have a kind of a treacherous journey ahead of them, and I don't know how long it'll take them to get there or what will happen in between, but where they leave off, they're still very much rivals. They're still verbally at each other's throats, threatening to kill each other, etc., but it's very clear that both of them can't resist a challenge, and they definitely find each other to be a challenge. So there's a lot of intrigue between them as well.
Wow, yeah. Nice. Nicely put, too.
Thank you. And they tease us with like one last thing. Cui Butui tells Feng Shao that he holds the answers to who the assassins from the 13 floors of Yuanhai are, and why Yushio, the creepy monk guy from before, showed up, aside from the jade. So he has information that's going to add like other layers of suspense to the story.
Interesting.
Yeah. I am really excited for this story. It's, I think, completely unlike any other Danmei book I've read before. It's very heavy on the mystery. I will say the first volume introduced a ton of information at once, and it was a little bit hard to sort through and decide like what's important. Like is this going to be revealed in this volume, or is this like something that's being teased for a later part in the story? So the first volume was almost a little bit hard to figure out in that sense, like because you don't start out knowing what the stakes are or where the story will go, but by the end it does show you that big picture, and it does make sense why all of those details were included, even if not all the answers are. And so I really look forward to the second volume, because I feel like I have a good understanding of the characters and the plot and where things might go, and they just have such a crazy dynamic. It's so juicy.
Well, thank you so much for doing another little presentation. And if you guys would like to purchase Peerless or pre-order Volume 2, I'll have the links for that down below. And if you guys enjoyed these Danmei Book Club's videos, consider checking out our playlist. We've done pretty much every single book that's ever come out ever. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye!